This is Unpivot, the show for Excel and Power BI fans and anyone who loves chatting about data. I'm Win Hopkins.
I'm Mark Proctor.
I'm Sue Bays.
And I'm Rob Collie.
Fantastic.
Excellent. Welcome, Rob. When someone replaces Giles on an episode, they need to be a big name. Okay.
Yeah.
A big cube to fill. So thank you. Thank you for coming on the show, Rob.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited about this.
It's 6 a.m. How excited can you be?
Well, I think that's actually more an indicator than, I'm awake at 6 a.m. For this.
That's good.
I have to be excited to be awake at 6 a.m.
Did you see how he spun that? He spun that well, didn't he? He spun that question well.
Lovely. And sorry, Sue, go on.
I was going to say, I'm super excited, Rob. You're a hero in my eyes. So I'm very
thank
excited.
You so much.
Yes.
And I had to double check whether or not you'd been on our podcast, because your name is all over the the podcast, sort of Q&A and things like that. And so I'm excited to be here.
I think you've got a pretty warm, panel of questioners here to sort of discuss and chat with you. We're sort of all, I'd say, grown up in the Power Pivot, Power Query, Power BI world. So that's our space. We are those citizen developer, ex-accountant, ex-tutors, ex-sort of lecturers. So that sort of, non-traditional.
Yeah. My favorite people, really.
I remember reading your book. The first time I read your book, so I've read it a few times. I was sat on a plane flying somewhere, and first of all, I was laughing out loud, which was slightly annoying for the person I was with. And I just thought, oh my God, there's this tribe that I belong to. I'm not on my own being weird, geeking out. And it was a really lovely feeling. So thank you for that.
Oh, yeah. I saw it, and it's amazing what it's become, right? At that point in time, and we're talking about my Power BI book from 2015 or 2012, depending upon whichever one we're talking about. At that time, everyone was still very much isolated.
Yeah.
You didn't know necessarily that you were part of a large tribe. Today, that's different. It's much more visible. There is a community around this now that wasn't there before.
Yeah, you're right. I remember there's one sentence in that book. It was about that sort of, that you're part of this belonging in this area, and that solving solutions, using Excel or these tools was allowable. That shadow IT wasn't a dirty word, and it was almost like our company had been building Excel solutions for clients for probably 6, 7, 8 years.
Of course,
but we always felt like subpar to IT. But then seeing something written in a book saying, "Hey, it's okay," I don't know, it just sort of meant a lot for some strange reason, but it did.
Yeah, I really wanted to make sure to kind of open that book with that spirit, because I had seen it. It had been my job to sort of see that the demographic that we're talking about, people like you, people like us, I'm really one of them. And I've often joked that I'm kind of like a sociologist in a way that has studied this demographic for most of my career. And I remember when we would do classes for at the time, even Power Pivot, the thing that people enjoyed the most was when we did this dinner the night of after the first day of the class, the bonding and the not feeling alone that people felt. And so I really wanted to kind of reach through the page and connect and tell you things were going to be okay, because Power BI, and I talk about this in my new book as well, Power BI was just an amazing gift to this demographic we're talking about, as you mentioned, the citizen developers, or who I relabel the crafters in my new book. And Power BI was a miracle.
absolutely. Change my
Yeah, that it was able to reach that audience and legitimize them in a way that nothing else had before. You know, reach that quote unquote shadow IT audience, the Excel audience,
yeah.
Yeah.
and bring them onto the robustness, the level of an IT solution.
Mm.
And I think looking back, you know, like, well, okay, now we live with it, we accept it. It's just sort of commonplace. We know that Power BI is a thing and it's good, etc. But like, if you go back to before its creation, you would probably bet against it being possible. And it was.
Yeah.
Well, even a few weeks ago, I was introduced by one of my friends who works in IT to somebody else who works in IT, and he said, "This is Mark. He pretends to be one of us."
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And he's like,
Yeah.
he can't, he's like, he does the data bit, like the nose wrinkled up, the look of disdain with it. He pretends he does the data bit, you know, bit that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy, there's so many thoughts that go through my mind there. You know, maybe we'll come back to it. Like, there's something about in the new AI world, the battle to be between software vendors to be the semantic model there for enterprise customers, and like the perception of Power BI still as a front end. And it's really kind of eye-opening. So I mean, we should probably not go there yet, but let's put a pin in that.
Yeah.
And come back to it perhaps a little bit later.
So I guess we haven't actually got you to introduce yourself, but rather than do that, if it's okay with you, what we'll do, right? We'll do a little sort of stroll with you through the sort of the career. We've touched on the book already, so we can sort of get to that, but the original book and skip to it a little bit. But so back in the day, did you just go straight from uni into Microsoft? Was that your path or no?
Yeah, I went, Microsoft came to my college campus. They did interviews. They flew me out. I didn't expect to go to work for Microsoft. Like, it was, at the time, it was already like a perception on college campuses. This was in 1996, that Microsoft was the evil empire. And I almost had to like apologize to my friends. Like, I'm going to fly out there. I'm going to do the interview. But I'm not going to take the job, you know. But the interview really sold me. Like, it was just so different than other places I'd been interviewing. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to grow out here. And, you know, really going to be immersed in something completely different. And I'm absolutely going to go. Yeah, so that was straight. So I like to say that I grew up at Microsoft. Very, very strange place to grow up.
Yeah, absolutely. How many years were you there in total?
I think I was there like 13 and a half in total.
Oh, wow. Okay. And then a chunk of that was on the Excel team in the Power Pivot days, right?
Yeah, well, actually, I worked on the Excel team before the Power Pivot days.
Okay.
So there was, and this was, I think, really important to my arc, to seeing what I saw. So I was in the Excel 2007 release, I was in charge of the business intelligence features of Excel. And it was a big investment. That was like one of the big themes of the 2007 release, other than, by the way, the ribbon and more rows and columns. Right? It was a huge release of Excel. But BI was kind of like the central enterprise theme that we focused on. And a lot of that was integration with the original analysis services, the precursor to SSAS Tabular, the precursor to the engine underneath Power BI that we all know and love today. And the original analysis services was not something that we would all love. at all.
Okay.
It was just incredibly difficult to build, like the equivalent of building a Power BI model today is so much more humane than what it was like to build what was at the time, I believe they relabeled it analysis services multidimensional. But my job was to make sure that Excel was a first-class front end for analysis services,
Right.
because Microsoft didn't have its own. Like it had the engine, but no tool for displaying and interacting with the data model. Like it would be like Power BI without the report tab,
Okay.
essentially.
Yeah.
And so I got to know the world of BI as it stood at the time, what I now call traditional BI, very IT-centric, waterfall-driven BI, and I got to know the team. I got to know the analysis services team, and that, of course, became a crucial relationship at a slightly later phase in my career.
Yeah. So then the Power Pivot days come along, and all of a sudden, this sort of enterprise grade, SQL Server Analysis Services is built into every version of Excel. Well,
Yes.
as an add-in back in the day, initially,
Yes.
depending on your subscription basis, which
Of
was always
course,
a
depending
decision.
upon your SKU, because
Oh,
that's
come on, Microsoft.
yes.
Did the people internally raise their eyebrows as much for those sorts of decisions as us external folk, or even more so? Or
oh yeah, it was a constant tension between the product teams that build these products and the product management teams, the sort of the MBAs that went to market with it. They did this multiple times. It was a constant. You don't really see this. Well, now it's a little bit more rational in a way. It's tiered. It's at subscription levels. At least it kind of makes sense. But at the time, it was mostly being used to shore up the pro SKU of Office, because the standard SKU didn't involve access.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And the standard SKU was never intended to be purchased by anybody. Microsoft only wanted people to buy the pro SKU. And we talked earlier about IT's disdain for things like Excel. There was a sort of almost like an attempt to get rid of Excel in a way, like a movement to stamp it out, and that only made Excel more prominent. Right? It's like Excel multiplied under that pressure. But the same campaign against access was very successful. Access was much easier for IT to eradicate and take over. And so we saw customers starting to opt for the standard SKU, which they were never expected to buy. Like the standard SKU was on the menu just to make the pro SKU more expensive.
Okay.
So at that point, the MBAs, et cetera, who were in charge of the packaging and the SKUs and all that kind of stuff, would go looking for things to take out of the core products in the standard SKU to prop up the pro SKU. And it never worked. It always backfired.
No one ever knew what was in the different SKUs. You had to dig into 17 pages of documentation to find out.
Yeah. I mean, the end result was they always relented eventually.
Yeah.
And put it everywhere. But they would do that after the damage was done.
Yeah.
It was very, very, very frustrating. On the inside.
Well, in terms of that evolution, because you've got Power Pivot, Power Query, Power View, and Excel, and then you've got, I think in 2013, the idea was that you would you could publish your data model, your Excel data model into SharePoint, and effectively you got like a really basic like BI, Power BI type experience.
Yes.
So at what point did that then, did people think to spin that off as almost as a separate product as Power BI? Was that always the plan, or was it the fact that they built, you built this, you launched it, and it's like, is it just there's too much legacy in Excel, or was that always the plan? Do you know? Were you part of that?
I do know. The plan originally was that there was never a plan to do something like Power BI. Like there was never a plan to do a separate product with a completely separate visual layer. The plan was to target exactly the Excel audience I'm talking about, and the Excel audience I'm talking about it's very, very specific. It's not anyone who launches Excel, right? It's I look for the lookup functions. If you use the lookup functions, and if you use pivot tables or something equivalent like SUMIF and and array functions or whatever, which is crazier, right? Those are like the genetic markers of the crowd that I call the crafters, the crowd that I've called the data gene people. And it was a really, really, really smart strategy to target Power Pivot at that group. That was the group to target. They got that right.
Yeah.
We got that right.
Yeah.
And it's very natural, I think, to assume that if you're targeting that audience, then it needs to be in that product. And that turned out to not be true. So that was a surprise, I think, to all of us. And I kind of stubbornly clung to the idea that it was the right thing for it to be in Excel. Years after I'd left Microsoft, I was still very much convinced, incorrectly, that it needed to remain in Excel, and this new thing that they were coming up with was probably barking up the wrong tree, which proved to be completely, I was completely wrong about that. It's as its own separate entity. I completely underestimated, and in hindsight, so obvious, how important it was that this app be installable without worrying about things like 32-bit versus 64-bit. How important it was to have a visual canvas that was engaging and exciting to the end users, not the people building things. I could get plenty excited about a pivot table and cube formulas and slicers report, but end users, the people who were going to try to consume these things, didn't. I would absolutely say that was a pivot in strategy for sure. That was not the intent from the beginning.
I think as well, making Power BI Desktop free for everybody, and also you didn't really need IT to install it.
Yeah.
It became this sort of groundswell, sort of ground up, sort of sneaky
100%.
thing, and IT is suddenly going,
yeah,
what, we've suddenly got 17,000 published reports, and what the hell's going on? Turned into that, but
yeah,
really good.
There's a packaging and appeal and ease of kind of low friction acquisition, all of those things ended up making just all the difference in the world. And at the same time, we had Tableau, who really did something important for the world, which was to shift people's demands of what was possible. We were still very much in a reporting services, like information from centralized blessed sources arrived in the form of some sort of paginated report. That was not just it was a paginated report that was not interactive. It was essentially just a SQL query formatted into HTML. And Tableau raised the world's expectations that data should be a lot more visual. Data should be a lot more multi-touch interactive. We should all be grateful for Tableau making that shift, because it really did change things.
And then in terms of you sort of then leaving Microsoft, and I think I've heard you mention this before about sort of the realization that all the world just has really messy data, and that sort of the sort of citizen developer type person, has these tools now to do things that big data companies were taking 12 months, whatever, to build.
Yeah.
And generally those projects failed because by the time they were built, people sort of didn't know sort of what they needed in the first place, or didn't need
That's
that
right.
by the time it was built.
Yeah.
So going into your sort of Power Pivot days, then you just set up on your own, you left Microsoft.
Yes.
And what's the sort of story arc then from that sort of founding of sort of Power Pivot and the blog and the company to the P3 adaptive days?
Well, the short version of it is that I was really shocked at how good Power Pivot was, even though I was one of the first few people to work on it. Like Amir Nets came and recruited me to be one of the first few, and to represent this Excel demographic that we're talking about in the design of this product. And I worked on plenty of version 1 initiatives like this at Microsoft. I was as familiar as anyone about the trope that Microsoft doesn't get anything right until version 3, if ever. It was a very easy mission to be excited about, but it just seems such a reach that when I started actually using Power Pivot, I wanted to. My expectation was that it would fall short of what could be done in multidimensional, in traditional IT. That was my expectation. It was going to fall short, but hopefully be close enough. That was my personal sort of like thermometer. Okay. And what I found was completely the opposite. It outperformed. In my hands, Power Pivot, which then became Power BI, outperformed the level of results that I got when I hired an expensive traditional BI consultant in another role at Microsoft to build me, an official SSAS old style tabular with SSIS ETL and with Excel services, the web version of Excel as the front end, like the whole thing, that whole stack. I got way better results out of Power Pivot re-implementing that same project than I got from the official, and that blew my mind. It didn't come up short. It way outperformed it, and I was sort of uniquely positioned at that point, just because of my career arc, like the things that I'd seen. To see kind of what was coming, that the addressable market for BI was going to explode, and that our kind of people who were able to be sort of like close to the business, the people who pretend to be part of IT, Mark, but also live with and understand the business and can translate business problems in their head. Like the communication cost of a traditional IT sponsored BI project, was actually 99% of the cost of the project. And as you got closer to the business and could implement closer to the business without all of this like giant specifications that were anticipating needs that could never be anticipated and could never be understood and could never be written and were exhausting. Like just being able to sit down and start building the thing that you could sort of intuitively see in your own head that was going to help solve the problem. And then when it didn't solve the problem, you could iterate quickly. It's just a night and day difference. I knew that the consulting shops of the day that would help people implement these sorts of things were not remotely built. They weren't constructed from the ground up. Their DNA was a complete mismatch for this new style. And I wanted to go start a company that was optimized for this new style in terms of who we hired, in terms of how we operated, in terms of like the types of work that we would take on. Like that was just a very, very, very exciting challenge for me.
Who coined the phrase "faucets first"?
I believe I did.
Okay. I do love that. It's a really nice, simple, visual
sort
of thought.
One of the greatest compliments ever. I've a Microsoft executive who I very occasionally interact with quoted "faucets first" back to me.
Okay.
And I was like, wow. So that's a sign that it really really stuck. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the old IT approach was we sit down. Yeah. You need water. Your business needs water. It needs data. It needs information. Slow down. You need plumbing. And we're going to build plumbing forever. And we're going to anticipate where all the pipes should go. And we're going to just build like crazy plumbing. Like I had a CIO one time tell me, my team spends 3 months to put a dot on a chart.
No.
Which is exactly this plumbing first mentality.
No.
And with the plumbing first mentality, when it's time to finally put a faucet in, you go to the pipes and there isn't a pipe where you needed a faucet.
Yeah.
There's pipes going all kinds of places that you don't need faucets. So it's overbuilt, but it's also underbuilt. And if you instead work backwards from the business need, as we do at P3 with this faucets first mentality, like you get to the end result so much faster. And the difference between getting there faster, like at some point faster becomes also qualitatively different. Like you get a different quality of result. It's not just, you don't get the same result faster. You get a much better result, and it's also faster. And so if you needed to run a hose or two just to test out, like, okay, does this faucet work for you? Is it where you're supposed to be, or whatever? And then once you get it in the right place and you figure out what people actually need, then you can run some more responsible plumbing. But the old game was just like guess, and the plumbing became a project unto itself. And that was really not the way. That was I don't think that was ever actually successful. I never really encountered an example of that philosophy truly working, despite its blessed nature.
See, the phrase of yours, and I think it's your phrase, which sticks with me, and I think is probably now the most repeated and also now loosest, is the phrase modern Excel.
Yes.
Which I think you generated that to talk about Power Pivot and Power Query, and now it's the phrase that anything that's non-legacy is just modern Excel. Yeah, any new function is modern Excel. Anything is modern Excel. So it's kind of that phrase that you've coined. It now just means anything new is modern Excel. But I think you're the first person to kind of think of it in that terminology.
Yeah. I mean, I knew we needed better branding than Power Pivot or calling it Excel. Like it's like people didn't know what Power Pivot was. People didn't know what Power Query was. People knew what Excel was, which is great, but they had a kind of a calcified impression of what Excel was. Like, a bit of that's a cute toy that was invented, in the 80s, and we needed a new, and I do think that, for a while there, that term did gain a lot of traction. I'm frankly, Mark, I'm unaware that it's still being used.
It we use it for pretty much anything. I mean, it doesn't
Really?
describe necessarily Power Pivot and Power Query anymore.
No,
You know,
no, it's
Dynamic
Dynamic
array.
range, Excel, anything that is
Yeah.
anything that's kind of 2016 onwards is
Pretty
kind of
much since the
that
phrase was
is
coined.
modern Excel.
Yeah. And you got to give credit to the Excel team in how much they've embraced the possibility of being like their imagination and their ambition about what that tool can be has even the team itself kind of needed to decalcify, right? Its impression of what and I think they've been very, very, very very successful in taking on and maintaining a very innovative approach to the product. Ironically, like the place that I started, Excel, is a tool that I don't really push to the limit anymore.
No.
I don't. But I was glancing through some of your previous podcasts, and y'all are kicking the tires on Copilot in Excel and AI skills in Excel, etc. And that's just not a surface that I find myself in. I mean, our company works in Fabric and in Power BI and in AI. We don't work in Excel. I mean, for our clients, we don't build, Excel solutions for our clients. And plus, I'm an admin. My job as CEO isn't nearly as hands-on with the tools. So even if that were the case, I might not be, deeply, embroiled in the Excel product.
I wanted to ask how comfortable were you in that initial transition from hands-on to, suddenly a manager of multiple people, and as the company grew, was it must have had ups and downs, but was it really uncomfortable to start with, or were you not so bothered about being on the tools in the first place?
That's a really interesting question. I would say that I didn't mind it. I probably underestimated the difficulties of that transition. And I had managed people at Microsoft before, but in a different, it's a very different. It was much more. I mean, it's in some ways way less structured, but in other ways more structured.
More responsibility as well.
A lot more responsibility. I mean, I've never had like responsibility for a business.
Yeah, different
at Microsoft. And some of the the tropes you would read about business founders and things like that. That I thought were, oh yeah, those are stories about other people, like I'm not going to make those mistakes. Like I learned over time. Oh no, those are about me. Yeah. What do you know?
Yeah. And then during this whole process, Mark, you had some question about, was it some NFL project, or what was your?
Yeah, you've got some like NFL quarterback project, which I think has been running for a long time. And was that a hobby project? Did it ever become a thing? Like, is there I'm just interested in the story behind it.
Yeah, so in the this is a really interesting thing. It's just like this thought's been really at the front of my brain for the last couple of days. So in the like the insiders forums for my new book, Fair Game, a longtime friend of mine named Tim Rodman has we were talking about having a conversation. Someone else mentioned like ADHD or something like that, and Tim mentioned oh, ADHD, you mean what does he call it? It's not his term. It's like I think he calls it IBNS, interest-based nervous system, as opposed to importance-based nervous system. And so I definitely have that. I have an interest-based nervous system. Like creating a company that solves this puzzle of how to, like, what's the template, what's the operating model for how to succeed in delivering the promise of something like Power BI to the world when no one has architected a firm that way. It's very interesting, you know, gets my attention. And so along the way, like, oh, you know, ooh, shiny, right? Like, I mean, without getting too deep into it, there was an interim between my time on Excel and my time on Power Pivot, where I did work on, believe it or not, Microsoft's fantasy football offering.
Oh, that's
You know, talk about, again, interest-based, not importance-based, right? Like, and that's where I hired the professional consultant to do all of the cube work, the traditional BI work, believe it or not. It was gonna be part of our offering, was we were gonna be like the best stats portal on the internet for NFL data. And then I rebuilt that on the blog originally, and that's when I discovered how much better Power Pivot was than the old way.
Wow.
So there's some lineage here.
Mm.
Now I did for a little while partner with an analyst who does a lot of film review on this thing we called I think we call it no checkdowns, and it's a Power BI you know, model and front end that helps visualize, like, you know, the performance of NFL quarterbacks, and it's really cool. But it was not important, you know, to the business. So I mean, it's still out there. We have a high school coach who uses a version of that we call CoverHawk to teach his players about the tendencies of their upcoming opponents. And again, very interesting, right? And it's been very successful for him. I mean, he's a very great coach. It's not his success as a coach isn't due to CoverHawk, but like it's more like his success as a coach is because he's open to things like CoverHawk, right? Like and using stuff like that with his players. Like he's just, you know, he's innovative.
You never know.
So yeah, those things have been. Sorry, go ahead.
You never know where those sorts of personal, you know, side projects you learn. You can, you know, you have a passion about learning, and it's a way of just learning these new skills. And even if it's like what doesn't work, and what you're not going to go down and pursue, it's that, you know, building all sorts of little things for your own personal projects. Really good way of learning, I think.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, I certainly have grown from each one of these experiences. Probably put too much time into them for the ROI. I mean, you know, similarly, I built a few years ago now, I built a set of really comprehensive, awesome dashboards for my beer hockey league in Indianapolis. I'm not even in Indianapolis anymore. And someone else has taken over the Power BI reports, and, you know, and pushes the refresh button. You know, we don't. It's not a scheduled refresh thing. It's refresh on the desktop and then publish sort of situation. Believe it or not, while we were sitting here on my screen, I'm getting texts because today we're recording on a Thursday morning. They play on Wednesday nights, and they're texting about the superlatives that go into a superlatives table that powers one of the dashboards and sort of calls out sort of all the funny things that happened or exceptional things that happened that night. So I'm watching those texts go by. I'm still on those text threads.
That's good fun.
And that one actually did teach me something really important, which might be a really good turning point for us in the conversation. So as great as dashboards are, you know, like the packaging of Power BI versus Power Pivot. We've talked about those. That's a multifaceted repackaging. There's lots of dimensions to it. It's not just any one thing. But in terms of capturing the imagination and the budget dollars of the people who matter, I think the visual experience of Power BI and the visual experience of Tableau is the thing that ultimately like really fueled its acceptance, right? Like our crowd would have taken to it regardless.
Mm.
But to get business people who control the purse strings, to get them to do something about it, they needed to be shown something that made them believe that data was going to be easy now.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a lie, right? Because it turns out it's not easy, right?
It's a lot of magic in the back end.
Yeah, well, yeah, a finished dashboard that does exactly what you want is amazing.
Mm.
But
it's not 5 minutes to wow generally, is it?
No, it's not. And but the other thing that I learned from the hockey project was, I put a lot of thought into the end user focused design of these dashboards. It wasn't perfect or anything like that, but I put a lot more effort into it than what we would typically do, in a typical project, because I knew that I was designing for, a very much civilian audience, and which honestly really should be the mindset we always have.
Mm.
The amount of effort I put into sort of like end user usability in these reports and these dashboards is really probably what we should always do.
Yeah.
But it's overdone, and it's still probably where we should always be. And I remember being asked, people were very excited about this. I just use publish to web, nothing fancy. And people were really excited because they were very passionate about this league. And so they were really interested in exploring these things. And someone came up to me who actually works in data. Like he works, at the time he was like a Splunk engineer. And he asked me hey, can you give me a dashboard that tells me X, Y, Z? And I just kind of face palmed, because one of the most fundamental dashboards in that set answers exactly that question. And, as much as efforts I put into this menu page with giant clickable thumbnail, icons about what their intent is, and giving them names that were clever, that would convey to them what this like skater versus skater, and stars of the night and stars of the week, and whatever. This really fundamental question that was answered by the sortable skater sortables was the dashboard. It was a very table with conditional formatting type of thing. The answer was there, and he couldn't tell that it was there. And so we've really underestimated the cognitive difficulty of a business user translating their legitimate business question in the way that it's formulated in their head into this geography of different reports, and then even within each report, the different pages, and then the fundamental question is, which dashboard should I use? I keep using the word dashboard. I know that Microsoft messed up the word dashboard. When I talk about dashboard, I'm talking about a report page in Power BI.
Yeah.
We know what you mean.
So that translation process is insane. It's insanely difficult, and it's near impossible to get it right. Like you can overdo it like I did and still fail.
That's what drives export to Excel, right? Because people can't find their own answers from the dashboard there, so that they're always asking for the data, because then they can play with it whichever way they want, even though maybe page 3.
That's interesting. I've always thought, I think you're right. I've always thought of export to Excel as a signal that the Power BI report and or a model is underbuilt. It doesn't meet the need, you know.
But it's very difficult to build a report or reports that meets everyone's needs for every month.
No, agreed.
That's where it's almost essential to have that export to Excel.
I think I'm going to add that to my understanding of this picture. I'm explaining that I've always thought of it one way. But I do believe you're right, Wynn, that it also just kind of fits into this. I have a translation problem, translating my business question into this sea of reports, this sea of dashboards, because you should never try to build one dashboard that is the thing. You need to build purpose-built dashboards that address different sorts of use cases, different sorts of workflows. But by the time you expand that to any reasonable width, it's too big.
Yeah.
And so this is around the time that I tried messing around with Power BI Copilot, and from an end user perspective, and asking questions in the form that the hockey players would ask. No translation.
No translation. What was the response like?
Well, I mean, first of all, it was a novelty. Like it would work. That particular offering would work just well enough to get you like excited about it and then let you down.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that's like, okay, this has been a problem.
It was like the question and answer, wasn't it? You were supposed to put your question and answer in, and it would give you the answer.
That's right.
First starting point.
But like, I now 100% believe that this is the future. Like I've long known, and then it was really crystallized with these other experiences, that a well-built Power BI semantic model is a wonder. You know, it's the only place in a company where data from all of these different systems meet. It's the only place in a company where they meet so that you can get sort of end-to-end visibility across like your business in the way that a business needs to see it. The business doesn't need to see its performance like one line of business system at a time. It needs to see the blended picture. And with good trusted definitions of what the metrics mean. Like it's sort of like the ultimate authority in the company, and its capacity for its value is limited by this dashboard interface. And an AI powered conversational front end over the top of a semantic model, I 100% believe that is a tremendous, that is going to be the dominant way of interacting with semantic models when we get it right. Like, and our company has hired developers, and we have built versions of this that actually work.
I was going to say, it's interesting you say that, because it's how you train the model on the data that you have. And I mean, you must get it from many different sources as well, different companies, and taking over reports.
Yeah.
And models.
So I just realized I've managed to talk for a full hour and not once mention really the new book. That seems like a real failure. I mean, like I love these topics.
Yeah, but it is really interesting, because I'm delivering a session for Ken Pulse's user group later on tonight about, now you have this model, what else can you do with it? And so part of it is showing how you can use Excel together with the model, and PowerPoint and Power Apps and Power Automate, etc. But there is this next stage, which is really super exciting, about how you can enable your model to be read by AI to do exactly what you're saying, that it can answer the questions, and you can have this chatty part. Because in your book, one of the things that I found particularly interesting was how you explained how it works, and the engine, and what's in the background, and what's next. And you mentioned that AI is an expert on everything in the world, but not necessarily your business, because your business isn't in the world for everyone to read about. So it's how you change those models to enable it to become an expert on your business with these models.
Yeah, like we're so impressed by AI's capabilities of solving kind of our general purpose problems and helping us with general purpose questions, and even now, like, you know, building PowerPoint decks and all that kind of stuff, because these LLMs have been trained on essentially like everything that's publicly available. I mean, they possess just an astounding percentage of humanity's total knowledge. It's just sitting there in the LLM's brain when it wakes up. And so I call it the knowledge cliff. Like, if it's generally available, it already knows. If it's a web search away, it's got a web search tool that it can go look some things up.
Yeah.
Everything else, AKA everything about your business, is unknown to the LLM. And so when you try to turn these off the shelf, like, you know, even like the more advanced customizable options like co-work, et cetera, right? Like when you try to turn them onto real business problems and turn them into this AI future that we're constantly hearing about, it face plants. It doesn't deliver anything resembling this AI promise that we've been talking about. And you know, so when I went down the AI rabbit hole, you know, on behalf of our company, like, you know, what should we be doing?
Yeah.
What should we be doing for ourselves? What should we be doing for our clients? Like, how do we navigate this changing landscape? I went down that road not expecting to write another book. I thought I was done as an author. I thought the Power BI book was the last book I would ever write. And but what I found on that journey, you know, that was sort of like very much motivated by our company's needs, was, for the second time in my life, I had come into possession of knowledge that 100% was understandable to a much larger audience. But I knew wasn't getting to the much larger audience. And, you know, go back to the interest-based nervous system thing again. Like, writing a book sucks. It is awful.
It's fun for the first couple of chapters, and then it just,
you know, it does. It wears out real quick, you know. And like, it is in some sense important to our company that I write a book about AI that people read and like and associate with us.
Yeah.
That wouldn't have been enough for me to do it. Like I needed to feel like compelled to write it.
Yeah, the first time I started reading it, again, I was on a plane, because we've been fortunate enough to have a PDF copy. And you just start it off by saying, "You're not behind, don't worry."
Yes.
And you think, thank you, Rob, because we're just having it blasted at us all the time. And so to actually have that really structured, comforting explanations with that little bit of humor to enable you to feel that you're okay, you're going to not only survive this AI journey, but you're going to thrive. And so that's the feeling that came across in the first chapter.
Yeah.
So can I just ask a question on the back of that? So, because in the start of the book, you said, I think it was like an 18-month journey, right? I think it was about 18 months. Now, in that 18 months, you also wrote the book. So, in theory, you've got like a 12-month journey from I'm starting this to now I'm 100% comfortable with how this fits together, right? So, now that people have your book or other resources, how much does that timeline of understanding decrease? Because you were writing based on discovery, right? You're learning this stuff as you go. But when people absorb the knowledge that you've had, does that mean that actually, if people do feel behind, that actually in 3 months they could feel, hey, I'm on top of it. So actually, they're only ever 3 months behind because they can catch up. Well, what's your perception of that?
Yeah, that's sort of the gift that I intend with the book, is that it's not navigating this is not nearly as arcane or inscrutable. Like the stuff that you see on LinkedIn is designed to cause imposter syndrome. And what you need first is this middle level. So this is when you look at the market for books in this space, there's the really high level, like thinky business strategy, it's good to be seen carrying this under your arm going into a boardroom book. And then there's these other books that are hyper technical. And like way out in the weeds. And there's really kind of nothing in between that explains to business thinkers of all stripes, like not just people like us, but it's definitely something that people like us need to understand. Just sort of like building a mental model for how all of this stuff works, sort of independent of all the technical detail, like just wrapping your head around the idea that success in, so the subtitle of the book, so the title of the book is Fair Game, subtitle is Customizing AI to Your Business is Easier Than You Think. And Mark, to your point in your question, like I say in the book, like I feel like I was almost late to AI, but I'm early. And like if you read the book, my goal for you from like end to end when you read the book is that you don't have to do that 12-month journey, which you won't have, like, I had time to do that as well, right? Like it was a dedicated part of my job, as opposed to like juggling it while you're doing other things. Like you can be also early. You can be one of the leaders who, either from the technical standpoint or the business standpoint, of actually starting to plot like a strategy and actually starting to build things that start to deliver on that actual promise that the off-the-shelf tools don't deliver. And by the way, look at what the major AI labs are doing right now, and look at what Microsoft is doing right now. they're all starting consulting companies.
Okay.
You know, it's an acknowledgement that off the shelf isn't going to deliver on the hype.
No, it's not. But we all know that, don't we? Because
Okay.
as we said, data hasn't got any cleaner. Just because we've got AI, it doesn't mean processes are better or data is cleaner, or what it needs to do is it needs to be transformed, ready for AI.
And my couple of, sorry to jump in, my couple of sort of takeaways from the book as well. It was first of all, any book that has the phrase hoity-toity in it, awesome. You mentioned that sort of the word agentic engineering is the hoity-toity word, so co-building is a much nice, love hoity-toity. So that's just perfect. But that thing of, number one, semantic models are key to some of this success. Number two, building your own internal apps to be customized, that, you know, we're paying for like a timesheeting system that we use 20% of in our company. I just used Fable this afternoon, and half an hour I built what looks like a working version of that application. It's just ridiculous, right? Just ridiculous. And so those two things, that was sort of the inspiring bit out of the book for me, really.
Yeah, I think for listeners and viewers of this podcast in particular, I think the thing that I want you to know is that you have a much bigger role to play in this AI thing than you probably are anticipating. Because of the knowledge cliff problem that the LLM just doesn't know about your business. It's AI success is mostly a data problem. It's mostly an information problem. It's getting the right data and or even unstructured information to the LLM at the right time so that it understands enough that then it can lean on its knowledge of the rest of human history, et cetera, and human society, and its ability to reason like a human to do the right sorts of things for you. But you need, it's like they have PhDs in everything, but they're new hires to your business. And they are new hires to your business every single time they wake up. They need to be fed the information that's relevant to the task, that's relevant to your business context, or given access to pull it itself, a mixture of the two, every single time it's invoked. And so this becomes a traditional software problem. It becomes a traditional data problem with the added wrinkle that now free-form text like handbooks that explain sort of like how a process works or how a new hire should understand a task, those are now a form of data that us data people can be involved in. And a lot of the data management practices that we've applied to structured data for a very long time are now going to become relevant to a completely new category of information. And then, like, guess who's going to be needed for all these things? And then when your point that, you know, we can do, you know, SaaS replacement, like this is where things get really interesting, is that our crowd, who I call the crafters in the book, with the help of AI, we can now build a new type of solution. We can build like software solutions that that were kind of out of our reach before, in the same way that building like professional grade BI was truly out of our reach until Power BI. And so if the AI problem has to be customized to your business problem, can't be off the shelf, which I believe 100% to be true. And then furthermore, it decomposes into a traditional software and data and information problem. And then finally, if the software part is now unlocked to us, then like we have as big or bigger part to play in this AI revolution as we did in BI.
Yeah.
And think about it from a career perspective, like corporate boards, et cetera, weren't pressuring CEOs with the question, what are we going to do about BI?
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
they are pressuring, what are we going to do about AI?
Mm.
Like, this is a widespread pressure and no one knows what to do. Everyone is late.
Yeah.
No matter what LinkedIn tells you, like that's a handful of people who are genuinely early in some ways, but still might be missing the big picture.
It's growing so much, though, isn't it? That you know, almost as it's growing and developing, by joining now, you've let some of the really keen people do the hard work in working out what works and what doesn't work. But I really love that with you saying about Fable and the bespoke time card solution, because previously you would have to say to somebody, no, you know, even though it doesn't do quite what you want, it's cheaper to buy an off-the-shelf piece of software rather than create and program and develop your own bespoke system. But that's really exciting, isn't it? Half an hour with Fable, with your business knowledge, to be able to then develop a solution based on the knowledge that you've got and the guardrails that will do 95, 100% of what you want without having to pay for something off the shelf.
Yeah. It's been referred to as the SaaS apocalypse, but that's from the perspective of the SaaS companies.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You know, it's also the SaaS emancipation potentially, right? That we can retake some of that. And you know, there's a whole discipline that needs to develop around our crowd, or really anyone that's using, even professional developers who've long been developers. When we start using AI tools to write software, there's a new discipline that needs to develop around essentially like quality bar validation, making sure it works. Like this is one of the challenges for us, is that we've spent so much of our careers in these kind of like relatively constrained, like low code environments where validation that we're correct, validation that we don't have bugs is a relatively narrow space, right? Like, is the DAX correct? You know, we don't have to worry about whether there's a bug in Microsoft's refresh code.
Yeah.
But when we take over ownership of the software itself, we're stepping into a world that is inherently more dangerous, you know, than where we've been.
Yeah.
And when we're telling an AI agent, coding agent, to help us replicate an existing piece of SaaS software, oftentimes we benefit greatly from the LLM understanding that software that we're trying to replicate. Like, it already understands it, right?
Yeah.
Like the famous cases of, like, you know, someone sitting down and coding like a Monday.com or an Asana replacement in a weekend is unknowingly really benefiting from the fact that the LLM was trained on all of the documentation for those products, you know, and so it can sort of like self-validate in a way that when we're building something completely custom, we don't have that same safety net. Like, it's really cool. One of the things, you know, to tie this back to Excel for a moment, one of the things that I was talking to Brian Jones the other day, you know, head of product for Excel, and like, Excel benefits, Excel Copilot benefits from the fact that the LLMs were trained on Excel's API. When these frontier LLMs wake up, they already know everything about Excel's API. You don't need to tell it. And if Excel Copilot did need to tell the LLM when it loads it everything about the Excel API, it would overwhelm the LLM's ability to absorb new information.
Just be such a vast
set
of words, tokens, etc. That.
And I was like, because I was like, how are you all pulling this off? How is Excel Copilot performing so well when I know that the amount of information to educate it on the entirety of the Excel API would overload the LLM's short-term memory, its ability to, its context window is the technical term. And so guess what? Another really, really, really interesting problem for people like us is how to use these LLMs context windows efficiently, both for accuracy and performance, but also for cost.
Which is becoming a growing issue, right? Because lots of these things are going to be subscription, no longer token-based costs for things. And,
like the price for Fable when we switch to metering in a couple of days is really, really, really expensive. And so the model that's kind of developing in my head is like finding the frontier models aren't probably going to be the things that we use in our custom solutions. The things that actually deliver on the promise of AI that are like kind of like running on a daily basis, probably in many cases don't need to be running on those most expensive models. When we're building something though, we probably want to be close to the frontier. Like when we're doing like really complicated, like co-building work, or really high leverage, like strategic planning type thinking, in those situations, we want to be using, maybe not the absolute latest and greatest. We want to be sort of closer to the top of the stack.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're seeing that LLMs are becoming less expensive. There's many LLMs, some of them even, completely open weight, essentially, like not free, but that, if you think about it, like they can match the performance of year ago frontier LLMs for just, like pennies by comparison. And last year's frontier LLMs were amazing.
Yeah. Just keep getting better. So to wrap things up with, so firstly, when's the book coming out, Rob?
August 11th.
Where do people find it?
Well, so, August 11th, it'll be everywhere books are sold. And again, the title is Fair Game, Customizing AI to Your Business is Easier Than You Think. But you can pre-order today at fairgamebook.ai, a website that we put together with the publisher. And that brings with it the bundle. So instead of just getting the book on the August 11th release, you'll get the hardcover, the ebook, and the audiobook read by me.
I was going to ask if you got an Audible book. I like it.
Yeah. And also early access to like the first 5 or 6 chapters. So you get instant access. You can start reading immediately if you go to fairgamebook.ai and pre-order from there.
Delivery to Australia, Rob? No.
We are doing. Okay. We are doing international shipments.
Asking for a friend.
Yeah. Like there's when I refresh the list of pre-orders, I see items go by that are tagged as different countries. It's a little different, but we
And
do have a way to do that.
I've got a closing question. So I've got a 16-year-old daughter. I've heard you interview your college-age daughter on your podcast. What's your advice, work-wise, for the kids?
Well,
With
they've
all
got
this
a very
going on.
complicated environment. It's two things really working against them. Number one, whether right or wrong, whether this is a smart strategy or not, companies have been pulling up sort of the first rung of the career ladder.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that does to these companies long term, because they very much need people on the second, third, fourth, fifth career rungs. And where do they come from? They start on the first. But the effectiveness of LLMs at the difference between a young new hire and an LLM is unfortunately not that great, right? Like the LLM's key weakness is it doesn't understand the business. Neither does the new hire, right? But the LLM has been trained on the entirety of the art of that industry. So it actually is more seasoned as a general professional than the new hire. This is a difficult dynamic to overcome. At the same time, my kids, I think, have kind of aged past this, but there's a lot of social media influence pushing on young people to reject AI.
My daughter and her peer group hate it, won't touch it.
Yeah.
16 years old, absolutely anti it all.
And
why wouldn't they touch it?
Environmental, jobs, those two.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an ethics stance, and and I do understand it. I mean, like I'm not all that sure that long-term AI is good for society. It's very much TBD, jury is out.
I'm on the fence. Yeah, same.
As professionals who need to remain viable and need to remain employed, like we do have to respond to this. Ignoring it or opting out isn't going to serve our interests. Nor is it going to serve the interests of the youngsters. And they're not going to stop it. No one's going to stop this by opting out. This isn't going to be uninvented, and
hopefully slowed a bit, I think, is the best hope.
There's we could do like a whole nother hour now.
Another hour next week.
So like I think we all need to make the conscious choice to lean into the parts of this that are actually exciting. And de-emphasize for ourselves a little bit the parts that are scary. Because there is promise, there is value, there is ROI, there's a lot I can do. Like one of the people at our company right now is involved in a hackathon that is using Claude Science to try to accelerate cystic fibrosis research. There's and there's like doing protein folding and all kinds of things. And as society has become more productive, in general, things have gotten better.
Mm.
And then there's the personal angle of like your own career.
Mm.
So, I mean, I think the overwhelming number one piece of advice to the youngsters is that when the music is playing, you're going to have to dance. And, you know, if you want to overcome this first career ladder rung problem, you've got two routes, and I recommend both of them. One is getting experience anywhere you can,
Mm-hmm.
so that you stand out as not, you know, literally like, you know, day zero, first time professional in any sort of, you know, job hunt. But also to embrace AI, because again, that's going to be a differentiator. Like, I mean, like, it's not like the people on the career rungs, you know, 2 and up are going to be more likely to embrace AI than you are. They don't understand it either, and the book is written for them as well.
Yeah.
You know.
So basically, they should read the book, is what we're saying.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think they're going to need to, you know, get over sort of those that reticence that's largely being programmed in by social media.
Yeah.
Elements of that. But I think it's sort of a combination of getting on board, but also pushing back, making people aware of the risks, and hoping that the people in charge do actually look at this properly.
Yeah,
you know, that's all we can do. So
yeah, I do agree with that as well, for sure.
Yeah. Perfect. All right, Rob, really appreciate your time. Thank you for getting up too early.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
for having me on.
We'll put links to all the relevant content and the book website, etc., in the description and show notes. So thank you once again.
It was a pleasure speaking with you. It's the best 6 a.m. conversation of my life.
Today.
All right. Take care, Rob. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.